As many know, music is a universal language that transcends boundaries. From the rhythmic beats that pulse through our veins to the melodies that stir our souls. Today, we're talking one of my favorite topics, creative resilience. So join us as we dive into the realm of creativity within music, uncovering limitless possibilities of expression, innovation, and artistic exploration with none other than Ryan Neal, self-proclaimed sonic wizard. He hails from Detroit, Michigan, with a distinctive Motown Bounce style, blending soul, funk, hip hop, and electronic beats. So he's captivated audience on primetime TV to gracing festival stages. And his resilience and story is one where creativity shines and promises some pretty fun and exciting things coming up. Hi, Ryan. How are you doing?
What's up? How are you?
Good. So first things first, though, I got to ask, Sonic Wizard.
I don't remember putting that, but I should probably change that.
I love it. It's fantastic.
Yeah, I think that just kind of like it lends to my I'm always like production first, like sounds and how they fit together and just like nerdy stuff like that.
Yeah.
So I think that's probably where I think I probably put that into AI somehow, and it just,
And here's a whole list of my interests.
Yeah.
Title.
Yeah.
Oh, it's fantastic. Well, and even just watching like from Instagram and your videos and things too, it attests to that. You know, you're always trying new technological things within music and different instruments as well. So diving into the topic of creative resilience. So listening to your story, you've overcome challenges from childhood, dealing with a brain tumor from a very early age. And then even you'd mentioned that you were half deaf in one ear. So
that's correct, yeah.
When it comes to overcoming these challenges and in the profession that you are now, how did you find your flow? Pun intended.
Yeah. So, I wanted to start off playing music because there was a couple of reasons. My grandmother on my dad's side, she played professional piano for many years, and towards the tail end of her life, she had severe dementia. So like the last 8 to 10 years, it was pretty bad. So she kind of forgot who we were, but then I would see her performing in the ballroom at her, old folks home, just performing in front of like 200 people, playing the same piano pieces that she played when she was like 7. So seeing a 93-year-old really frail woman just be able to like just slay on keys, I was like, wow, this is a superpower that, I hope to have one day. And that was before I started playing. And then, a handful of years later, watched School of Rock, and I was like, this is it. This is what I need. Yeah.
This is it.
Yeah.
Well, I'm really touched to hear that story about your grandmother. And, that's absolutely incredible. And it reminds me of the documentary, Music and Memory. Have you seen that?
I haven't seen it, no.
So, I mean, it's one documentary, but there's so much research that goes into the power of music and dementia patients. And I think you might enjoy this because you also share a love of Motown. But as you may know, my mom also had dementia. And the one opportunity that her and I always were able to connect back on was when I would turn on Motown in the car and we would both just be belting out songs. It would change her mood.
Yeah.
But it's beautiful to think about that something like music is so ingrained on a cellular level of our bodies. And it can bring something back like music and just remembering where people were at in those moments. And that's a gift.
Yeah, it was same thing. We would play her these like 1920s, 1930s records, and she would just like light up. After she had been sitting there, just kind of like slumped over, just kind of looking out the window, and then it was like a switch flipped, and it was just really cool to see. And I wish I was playing at the time where I could have like performed with her, but she kind of gave me the initial spark to make it happen.
And how freaking cool is that? You're carrying on her legacy in that regard.
Yeah, definitely. No, I think about it all the time, and it's really special because no one else in my family played music. So to have that link with her is really cool.
Yeah. It's an artistic expression, like, I mean, like many artistic expressions, it comes from the soul. And I think it connects with people in so many different ways. When it comes to instruments, I mean, how many different instruments do you play? What is your core? I mean, is it keyboard, piano mainly?
So I started off playing guitar. I just
Mhm.
wanted to do that. Then I started singing a little bit, and then I picked up piano and bass at a later time. So yeah, 3 plus voice. So
Which is wild. Like I can't even pick up one. I once tried to play like an acoustic guitar, and I was like, I've got like 3 tabs down, like Blink 182 and, and the White Stripes
yeah.
is all I got here.
Yeah, the White Stripes, oddly enough, that was the first song. My best friend got a guitar for Christmas, and that kind of put it over the edge. And him and his cousin were learning Seven Nation Army at the time. I
Yep.
was like,
Yeah.
mind blown.
I know.
Gotta
I
get
thought
it.
it was so cool too. And like to this day, someone will have a guitar and I'm like, watch this.
Yeah. Yeah.
Check me out.
Yeah.
I love it. Well, so another fun fact. So Ryan and I went to high school and grade school together. We're a few years apart. I think you're 2 years younger
2
than
years.
I
Yeah.
was. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, go Falcon. Once a Falcon, always a Falcon.
Yeah.
Gotta love it. But now, I mean, you're in Nashville. You're gracing stages. You're making music, and one of the fascinating things when I kind of reconnected with you was you were on ABC's Bachelor, the Listen to Your Heart. So I had admitted before I'd never really watched reality TV, but so curious to hear how that experience came to be. But then, like, what that propelled in your creative career as a musician.
Yeah. So I was essentially back in fall of 2019. I was posting, you know, like I do to this day, singing videos and just
Mhm.
playing in my house at the time. And I got a message on one of my videos. It was like, hey, we think you'd be a good fit for an upcoming show.
Yeah.
And I didn't really take it seriously. And I think the next day I looked at this guy's IMDb. I kind of Googled him, and he had all these shows, American Ninja Warrior, like every season imaginable of The Bachelor. I was like,
Yeah.
this is interesting. He seems real. And then so followed up, and they pitched it as, how would you they're like, you're single, right? I was like, yeah. It's like, how would you like to live in like a really big house with a bunch of single men and women and make music? I'm like, that sounds great. It sounds like the summer camp I never had. Like let's do it.
Yeah.
And so, you go through the process of trying out and all this stuff, and then you find out, weeks later when they're signing the contract that The Bachelor is producing it. And at that point, they were like, yeah, it's going to be, on Monday nights at 8 p.m. on ABC. I'm like, that's a pretty good time slot for people. So, it just snowballed, and then had a fantastic experience on the show. It was really
Mhm.
great for me, and met some really great people that I'm still very closely connected to this day. Put out a song with a couple of them so
Mhm.
far. Another girl's moving to town this month. One of the best singers on the show. We're definitely going to make music together very soon. So it's been great. We had, such a bizarre, wild experience, and I wouldn't trade it for anything. It was fun.
Yeah, that's wild. That's wild how opportunities like that can come up, and when you least expect them. And like you said, you didn't even know what it was tied to. It was after you signed the contract that you were like, "Oh, this is ABC's Bachelor."
Well, once the contracts came, it was like, oddly enough, Matt Carey was the lawyer that looked over it for me.
No way.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah, yeah,
love
and
that human.
yeah. And so I sent it to him. He's like, bro, this is the wildest contract I've ever seen in my entertainment law. It was like 88 pages of just like craziness.
Yeah,
But anyways, yeah. And then once I figured out that it was connected to that, I'm like, man, I've
you
never
gotta do it.
watched this show.
Yeah,
I don't know what the deal is.
yeah.
So
I love that connection too. I'm sure Matt was like, "This is so baller." So
yeah,
happy for you.
yeah,
Oh, so cool. So, you've been in Nashville for a little bit. You came from Detroit. I guess when it comes to opportunities, like what does that look like living in a place like Nashville? Is it a place where musician? I mean, it's probably pretty competitive, I'd assume.
yeah. It's very competitive, and I think it's very saturated. I mean, so many people are here for music,
Yeah.
and it's a really good and can be a bad thing too. But I think just the surrounding community is so heavy into creativity and the arts,
Yeah.
and the thing that really pushes me being here is the communal aspect of making music. Where I came from a background, I'm just like, I want to do it by myself. I'm kind of a loner when I make music. I like just being by myself and focusing and doing my own thing. But then here, the big thing is co-writes. So you get, 2, 3, 4, 5 people in a room. Usually not 5, it's a little too much. Usually like 2 or 3 people in a room.
Mhm.
Like, hey, we got a few hours. Let's write a song. We'll finish it. We'll get like a basic demo done. And then we can either use that for, either one of us if we're artists,
Mhm.
or we can try to pitch it to somebody else. And that's like clockwork. Like that's just what people do multiple times a week here.
Oh,
It's like
God.
you get in rights with random people that you either meet while you're out, or other people connect you with them. And it's like, hey, what do you got on books for the 28th? And it's like, well, I got nothing. Like, okay, from 12 to 3, let's do it.
Go
And
make
so
music.
yeah, so that's been really fun because I was shut off to that idea for a long time,
Mhm.
and it's not very natural to me, but it's that kind of forced creativity within those constraints, I
Okay.
think can help a lot of times. And like if you give your, at least for me, I can procrastinate very well. And so if I give myself like a constraint of some sort, whether it's a time or a certain specific, only these sounds I can use, that kind of helps my brain to pinpoint in and like really get stuff done.
Okay, interesting. Well, and even like the collaboration aspect is another one of my questions is like, where do you drive inspiration from? And in this setting, it sounds like it's a lot of the community aspect that helps drive that inspiration.
Yeah, and for this, it kind of depends on like, let's say, one time a girl and a guy came over, and the girl was like just going through this recent kind of breakup thing.
Mhm.
So she was feeling all these things, and I was like, well, let's just go with that because I don't have any, and it's really strange being in, two people show up to your doorstep that you've never met before,
Yeah.
and we're like, let's be vulnerable and like throw out idea, like it can be weird. And especially when they're not, most of the time I'm writing a lot of times with like country people,
Yeah.
and the song will turn out not country at all. And that's like, that's great.
Mhm.
Um, and so, yeah, it's so different every time. I mean, sometimes it's just like sitting with a guitar. Sometimes it's, I mean, I find a lot of inspiration just listening to other music.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, it's so different every time.
It sounds very it's like another form of therapy almost.
Yeah, it can be for sure. And that,
Possibility.
yeah.
So Nashville is to music what LA is to acting. Is that kind of because I guess I always wonder, like, you have these hot spots in America where
Yeah.
it's like you go to LA, you go to New York, you go to Nashville, you to make it big in these areas.
Yeah.
Is I guess what's the big difference between these spaces?
I think, so I haven't spent a ton of time in LA and New York, but I think I would say if you're going by like industry, they all three of them have, you know, acting, music, modeling, who knows. But
Yeah.
like I would say Nashville treats music like a 9 to 5. Like
Oh,
like people, like it is a business here. Like people, like I said, they may do 2 to 3 writes a day. So they're going from 9 to 12, 12 to 3, 3 to 6, and it's like they're going to be in different rooms with different people. Who
hmm.
knows where these songs go? It's just to kind of like build your catalog so you can
Yeah.
kind of pitch to a publisher, an artist, what have you.
Mhm.
So Nashville, I think, even though those other places are still very big music hubs, Nashville is a place that if you want to go, let's say you're just like a kick-ass guitar player
Yeah.
and you want to start meeting people and hitting the streets and playing on Broadway and all that stuff, like you can do it
Hmm.
pretty quick.
Hmm.
It's like a working town, you know.
So yeah, working town, but then you also have the accessibility to the collaborators, the studios, perhaps.
Yeah. Yep.
What about Detroit? I mean, we've had huge artists. I mean, we've had a lot of hip hop start in Detroit,
Yeah.
techno. We've had obviously Motown.
Yeah.
What is the music vibe when it comes to Detroit and the opportunities there?
I think the arguably to this day, some of the best musicians I've ever seen have been just playing in Detroit, whether it's just like a low key jazz gig in front of like 30 people. And so, I think the talent has always been there. Like you said, I mean,
Yeah.
so many different styles of music have originated there, and it will always be such a hub for creativity. And just like, I mean, it's just a soulful place, you
So
know?
soulful. Yeah.
So, um, I'll always love it. It's just very difficult to like, I don't think there's the industry help there that there
Mm,
is in places like Nashville, LA, New York, where, if you're really good, like you can do your route and go around and play all these different clubs. But Detroit, it's so like you may be doing a gig in, let's say, Birmingham, Detroit, and then you got a gig in Ann Arbor, and then you got a gig in Flint, and then you got
uh,
it's like so spread out.
yeah. It's
Where,
yeah.
yeah, here Nashville is such a small city, like you can get around the entire town in 15 minutes
Yeah.
everywhere that you
Yeah.
would need to play. So having that just small hub, you meet people really quick, and you can get access much quicker, I think.
Yeah.
So even though Detroit will always be, in my heart, it's
Hmm.
just it's a little it's just difficult to sustain a career there in music unless maybe you have like a great online presence or something like that, or maybe you can if you want to like teach or something like
Yeah.
that. But I think if you want to consistently like play shows, meet people, be in the studio,
Mhm.
I think a lot of other markets are just easier to do that in.
Yeah. 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 And I mean, I think it goes to say, I mean, I've been in North Carolina for 10 years now, but Detroit holds so much of that soul that, it might not serve in any way, but, you always kind of have it in your heart. But I
Yeah.
can see that from the industry perspective, obviously automotive and very, I feel like it's changed over the years since I've been gone, but interesting to hear too, as far as the industry support and the comparison there too. Um, which also I was happy to see you at the Lions game this
Ah,
past.
that was literally like one of the best days of my life for sure.
Oh my God, you were at a Lions playoff game too.
Yeah.
You were at both of them, yeah?
No. I went to the first one.
Damn.
Yeah, that was a great just experience with my dad and I, and
Yeah,
it was so much more than football. Like it was every year watching Thanksgiving and every year being so terrible and getting let
yeah,
down. And I was like, oh my God, this year like we have some hope, and like
yeah.
holy shit, they have a home playoff game. And I wasn't going to go until like 3 days before, and all these things lined up. I'm like, all right, I'm gonna surprise him. It's his 75th birthday. Like
Oh, yes.
let's do it.
Oh, amazing. And like you said, I mean, there was more than hope this year. I mean, not to go on a tangent about Lions, but like just that city as a whole. I mean,
Yeah.
I told my husband and he got on the bandwagon. He's like, "Damn, okay, this is fun. I'm going for the Lions." I mean, the Lions became America's team.
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
And it's kind of fun for us too because Aiden Hutchinson is from our high school, so it's kind
Yeah.
of like, yeah, okay, go Falcons.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But it makes me excited too because I'm really excited about watching next year. And I'm not even a big football fan. And, I've cheered at games and I was like, ah, cool, okay,
Yeah.
like, I can follow. But now I'm like, I've got a team. This is the first time in my life, in your life, that we've seen a winning Lions team, which is
It's really crazy because I
mm,
always, I fell out of fashion with sports kind of after I graduated high school. I just stopped following anymore.
yeah,
I always played, but it was like I can see now how, the Patriots fans, like, and all these dynasty and in these teams that were always winning. I was like, I used to make fun of those fans, but like, such a loser. You're in like your
yeah.
late 20s, early 30s, like still following football. Like, but now I'm like, damn, it means so much to the city, like the pride.
So much.
And it was really special to see that, and
So much.
just to see Detroit light up.
Yeah. All right. Well, I fully hope that at least one game they'll have you out to sing for the
I know, well, let's just say, yeah, I have my antennas up, like my feelers out for that.
uh
I know a girl that works there, and she got me the tickets like super last minute, and she
Yeah.
works in the marketing department. So I'm like, I'm trying to do a lot of stuff with the Lions next year. So we'll see what happens.
Good. Yeah. I mean, we were even like, do we just go home? Do we just hop on a flight and get up there just because we want to be in the city to feel this energy? But yeah, you got to keep me posted on that because I'll definitely make a trip home to come see that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure.
So, some of the other questions that I have in regards to like creative flow, it's every artist is different. And how you make music, how you find inspiration. I know that we've talked a lot about you collaborating with community and producing alongside others. But when it comes to, you being at home or in your studio on your own, where are you drawing that inspiration from? How do you organize your creative thoughts?
Yeah. So when I'm not here, I'm always using just voice memos on my phone.
Okay.
Because I'm singing something, kind of beatboxing, whatever. So I'll save that, and then I'll listen to that kind of when I get home or later on during the day. And if it's still good, I'll try to kind of reverse engineer what I heard into the computer. But then sometimes I don't know. I'll just sit down at the piano or with a guitar in my hands and just kind of just start noodling and start singing nonsense. And if something sounds catchy, I'll try to like write a phrase that may fit with that. But I would say the majority of the time it's never just like, oh my God, these ideas are coming. Like I have to every day, get to my station and just like, I have certain things I do. If it's not coming, I'll like organize my software. Like I have all these samples, whether like drum samples or whatever, and I'll at least be productive in that way. Or I'll remake a song that I really like. That's like the number one thing. If you want to learn how to produce music, it's like, just copy a song that's already great as best you can. Like listen to the smallest details. Like, oh, you can see in the waveform, like, oh, that's like where the snare is hitting. That's where like, and so you'll build your track, maybe change the chords, maybe change some sounds, but then you're like, oh, I have the framework. It's already there. Like now I'll just make my own version of it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah.
Having inspiration readily available at your hands.
Yeah. And the more hands-on I can be, like without clicking on the laptop, the better. Like the more knobs I can, the more analog gear I can use, which I don't have a ton, but like if I can move a knob as opposed to like clicking a mouse and dragging, it's such a more tactile, fun experience.
Yeah. I think that can go for so many things. I have a background in video editing and creative direction. And that was the thing that I kind of felt too, is I just wanted to use my hands to create in raw form.
Right.
And it's so often where, part of my therapy was just like releasing from the computer and going and painting, going and drawing, going and doing something, sculpting.
Yeah.
So I think there's a lot to be said about that feel, that vibe, that yes, you can produce incredibly amazing things digitally, but how it transcends in our bodies through, whether it's a key, a chord, or a guitar string. So
yeah.
When it comes to, I'm still on the topic of creative, inspiration. One of the other things that I was thinking about is, we all have these creative things that we've learned about ourselves. And for you, what would you say that might be? Like, what have you learned about yourself through the last, you've been making music since you were, would you say like a teenager, early teens?
Yeah, I think I started playing guitar at 12.
Yeah.
So 20 years.
What have you learned over 20 years? What have you learned about yourself creatively?
I learned that I'm very good at being by myself for extended periods of time. Like I think music taught me because my earliest years of development, I was just in my basement playing alone to songs I loved and just like really, really trying to learn. And I wasn't learning with anyone else besides myself. Yeah. So I think that's helped me even outside of music, just because sometimes you meet people and they can't be with themselves at all.
Yeah.
And especially in this day and age, just with, the constant, distractions with the phone and everything. It's like, I feel most comfortable in a cabin for months. Like I can be by myself and feel very comfortable doing so. I think because of my discipline when I was very young at music, and I'm glad that I learned prior to social media, because I don't think I would have developed as quickly as I did if this was in my hand and I could like, oh, I'm playing. Oh, like 8 seconds later, I got to check the phone. So it was still pretty analog at that time. Um, but yeah, I think it just taught me the ability to be by myself, kind of find peace um, within myself.
Man, that's such a good point. And for so many, within our same age range, where it's like we didn't grow. I mean, we're only a few years apart, but we never grew up with social media, and that's such
No.
a good point. Whether it's creatively or just in everyday life, where we have to be alone with ourselves. And I love how you relate that to your creative time too, because it's in those moments sometimes where you're learning about yourself by what you're expressing.
Yeah.
um, I wanted when I was in college, I was exploring potentially going into art therapy, because I found that it's such a healing opportunity also, where people can just put themselves onto paper, into music, etc.
Yeah.
So I love that that's what you connected to when you thought about what have I learned. It's that you can spend time alone and you can
Mhm.
entertain yourself,
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
however you want to say it. Like it's you can have fun and enjoy spending time learning about yourself and exploring different layers of your creativity, yourself, and other things. So
Yeah. And I think coming from like a team sport background, my early life, I was always with the buddies, always, playing games and stuff. And then, um, as music came into my life, sports kind of took a toll. And I was like, oh, I'm finding so much peace and comfort with just trying this new skill and just trying to get better at it every day. And I
mhm.
wasn't needing an outside, you know, anyone to help me with that, or any type of, inspiration outside of like what was in my room at the time, which was like a guitar, a little amp, and
Yeah.
probably like a Sony Walkman or so. I don't even know what I had at the time, but yeah.
Yeah. Well, if that's one takeaway, I think it's inspiring to, just be comfortable on your own, be comfortable with yourself. I mean, I could have a whole conversation just on that. I remember a girlfriend, I was like, oh, she's like, what do you do? I was like, well, I just, ate dinner by myself. And she's like, you went out to dinner by
Yeah.
yourself? Like, that sounds mortifying. I'm like,
Yeah, I
it was
love
actually
that.
really empowering. Like, especially if I'm traveling alone and I'm like, yeah, I'm going to go, sit at a restaurant or something downtown and sit alone with myself. And, not maybe I'm not going into a creative endeavor, but it's just, I don't know, there's something to explore there, above and beyond just creative endeavors too.
Yeah. I'm like, it's almost becoming like, is this detrimental because I like it so much? Like, like, do I need to find a partner who's going to be like cool with me, like potentially doing things alone sometimes? And,
Yeah.
I don't know. It may be tough because I'm like, man, I can really entertain myself pretty well.
Yep.
So I don't
And
know.
you gain to you come to like it. I mean, I'll be honest, that is how it ended up for me and my husband. We both are very independent, but we respect one another's independence. And I really do enjoy those times where I can just be on my own too.
Hmm.
But
Yeah. I would
different
definitely have to
priorities.
find someone like that because I feel like that's a rarity.
Yeah,
A lot of people, which makes sense. I love being in groups of people and having
sure.
fun. Like I'm all about that too. But not needing it, I think, is different than wanting it sometimes.
Yep. Yep. That's fair. That's fair. I've come to find I'm an introverted extrovert, or an extroverted introvert.
Yeah.
I'm an omnivert.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah.
So what is, I guess, what's next for you? What are you excited about? I mean, actually, here's a question. If you would want one person to watch this episode and potentially reach out to you to make music, who would that be?
Yeah. um. Wow. There's there's a guy who I really take a lot of inspiration from lately. I don't know if his name's John Bellion.
John Bellion.
Um,
Okay.
if you look him up, he's worked with so many of the biggest artists. He's an artist producer himself, makes like incredibly it's pop music, but it's not, it's like very meaningful and deep, and there's just he's probably the most talented person in pop music, but not too many people know who he is because he's behind the scenes as a producer and kind of does a bunch of stuff. But like he's kind of been the guy for the past 5 or 6 years, and I'm like, I would love to have a career like him. Like his footprint is on tons of music. He can still have a very normal life. You know, if you saw him on the street, you would have no idea who it is. So can keep that anonymity, can have a great life, and have an impact on so many people, but like in a low key way. Like I would love to, I'm kind of coming into, because growing up, it's like, oh, you want to be on the biggest stages and like you want to be the guy. And there's still a part of like a musician's ego that always wants that. But I think it would be just as cool, if not cooler, to have the type of career that can kind of like, oh, that's like a Ryan Neal record that he made for someone else.
Yeah.
Like I want my sound to be on some like incredible female singers, you know, me not even singing, just like making the track or whatever. And so that would be kind of ideal, and still doing my own thing, of course, and putting out music under my own name, but like me working with just a ton of different people. And because that's where I really think I'm kind of coming into my own. Like I'm in these groups with these people here in Nashville, and they're all writing and they're playing guitar and singing, but like I'm making the track as it's going, and then we can come out of the session with something hopefully cool.
Yeah.
And so that's just kind of what I'm trying to keep building, you know, my portfolio towards. Like, you know, he can be the guy in town that's just like, he's going to put it all together and it's going to hopefully sound decent.
Yeah. So. Yeah. Maybe not, you know, the one that's the star, the celebrity. He can have that low key lifestyle, but he is touched and have elevated, amplified so many musicians in many ways. And just as you like say it and talk about it too, I feel like you're manifesting that. It just is, this whole conversation has come to be also.
Yeah. Now, don't get me wrong. I still want to play Red Rocks. That's like, that's the,
it will happen.
That's the ultimate. I just worked with a guy who, his band played Red Rocks. I'm like, damn, dude, like that's incredible. Like that's always been my spot. And I went there for the first time this past summer for a show.
Yeah.
I was like, this is
that's your spot.
Yeah.
All right. Well, so aside from playing at the Detroit Lions game next year, we're putting it out there. We're going to play at Red Rocks. I'll come watch you at Red Rocks.
Yeah.
So in the meantime, where can people find you? Where can people connect with you? Where can people make music with you?
Yeah, either ryannealmusic.com. I mean, that's the simple website. But then Instagram, I'm probably the most active on. It's just Ryan Neal, RYANNEAL_music. Yeah, that's probably the best. Just send me a DM if you see me, and you know, hopefully work together or just say hi.
I love it. I love it. And I love that we were able to reconnect and learn more about your story and where you're going. And I'm looking forward to this Lions game for sure.
Me too. I'm trying to not only like I want to sing at the game, but I reached out to her. I'm like, I started making this like Lions hype track. Yes. And I took Dan Campbell's voice like in the intro, and he's like, I spliced together all these post-game speeches that he's just like super riled up, and I put it over his beat, and I'm like, yo, if that could play at one of the games, like that would be sick.
Well, we're manifesting all of that right now.
Yeah.
It's gonna happen. It's gonna happen. Ryan, thank you so much. I always enjoyed chatting with you, and look forward to keeping in touch.
Likewise. Thank you so much.